Report, a weekly worldwide uncensored commentary on vital topics and epic truths that have been manipulated, diluted, and systematically restricted from mainstream media until now. I am your host, Bennie Foster, and you are tapped and tuned in to the Straight Report, No Chaser. Tonight, I have my very first special guest. He is a brother, he is a friend, he is a man that has grown up here in the city of Jackson, Mississippi. And if we could give tonight's show a theme, we would call it Concerned Citizen. Not just him being concerned, but even me being a citizen of Jackson at this point. There are some things that are on our heart and on our mind, and we want to discuss them in front of you. So with no further ado, I want to introduce you guys to my brother, my friend, Brother Amos Ellis. Brother Amos, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I've been anticipating this moment, and hey, we here.
We here.
So we're going to do what we do and talk about what we talk about, and I'm excited about it. So
the reason I was inspired to bring you on is because we literally have had several talks about the city of Jackson.
Yeah.
We've had several in-depth conversations about the city of Jackson and where our heart lies concerning the improvement and the advancement of the city of Jackson.
Right.
So let's take it way back. Let's take it back to when you were a child. You grew up here in the city. You're a few years behind me. I'm class of 1987, Callaway. You class of 93 of what school?
The best school, Jim Hill High School.
The other school, yeah. and that camaraderie has always been there amongst the schools. But at one time we were plagued with gangs, and we were plagued with various disparities such as drugs and alcohol. We saw that take some of our classmates out and things of that nature. But I want to go back to where you were a little boy in the city of Jackson. What are some of the things that you noticed early on that didn't just quite sit right with you as a young man growing up in the city of Jackson?
Well, definitely, probably top of the list would be the absence of men influence, black men influence. Not that it wasn't there, I shouldn't say lack of it, but it just wasn't, you know, in my opinion, I would say it wasn't enough influenced by positive black men in the community. I won't say, because I said a lack of influence. The influence was there, but the influence that was there was, you know, it leaned more towards the negative side than it did the positive side. So definitely that, because as a kid, for any kid to grow up thinking, yeah, I can be anything that I want to be, but yet have a desire to be the best drug dealer that don't get caught. You know, that's not good.
So when did you notice the change? Around what year can you remember that there was a dramatic change in how young people began to aspire to be something other than something that was like, you know, commonplace, a doctor, a lawyer? They started dealing with the drugs. They started dealing with the gangs. They started you know, being protective of neighborhoods and streets. I can remember exactly when it started happening. I can remember that it started happening around the time that I was in middle school.
Okay, yeah, I would agree.
You were a little bit younger than me.
Yeah, I would agree. It's like
something happened.
Yeah, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, yeah, junior high.
8th grade, 9th grade, I could tell that the dynamics
Right.
of the city were changing.
Right, and I think around that time is when, you know, for me, when crack was introduced to our communities or whatever. I remember hearing the stories of people being on crack and seeing it, you know, stealing out of family members' houses and things of that nature.
Lawnmowers, TVs, selling their shoes.
Right.
I witnessed all that.
Right, and it was you know, had that side of it, but then you had the side of it that was somewhat glamorous to young men and even some young women in the neighborhoods, in the communities, and felt like, you know, it influenced them in a way that felt like it was something that they had to do to either, you know, have nice clothes or help mom or dad or help the family pay bills or whatever. And I think, you know, of course, my opinion, oftentimes people use that as an excuse because even though the family may have struggled, I don't think that, they would have been at such a state of detriment to where if a kid or child decided not to partake in drug selling, that, the family would have been out on the streets or whatever. I think it was more something that was pushed by, an agenda to make us feel like it was something we needed, even though it wasn't, and we fell for it. So
we fell for it, and then there's the other side of the dynamic: those victims, those that fell victim to the drugs.
Right.
You had those that peddled it, and then you've seen movies like Snowfall and various movies that show the rise of the crack epidemic.
New Jack City.
New Jack City.
Yeah.
And those stories are true, to where you have a cousin or you have a friend that eventually comes to you wanting this very same thing that they've seen wreak havoc in our neighborhoods.
Right.
Why do you feel like it was like a flip of a coin with some people? Why do you feel like some saw it as a form of empowerment and others saw it as a form of this is my way of escape? Each one of them looked at it as this is my way of escape. One as the drug dealer saying this is my economic empowerment, another one saying this is how I escape mentally. This is how I go on a trip away from what's ailing me. Why do you think it was so many that dealt with that on both sides? Why do you feel like it was so easily just planted in our neighborhoods and we fell for it so easily?
If you think about it, we are a people, and even during that time, civil rights movement had already passed, whatever. Slavery no longer exists in the form that we know it or knew of it as it was taught to us in schools or whatever. But yet, we had parents and grandparents that could still recall the days of the civil rights movement, and then the stories that they heard growing up as children were probably the stories of when great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandmother or the great-uncle or whoever was still, dealing with the effects of slavery. So you had a people who didn't know who they were, moving forward through time and passing down or not passing down information about that same people in a positive light. So in the early 90s, we still didn't really know who we are. We didn't know who we were then. And even today, there's a lot of us who don't know who we are. I've heard, people speak in reference to, even in church, they said, well, we're the people in the Bible. But I never had anybody explain to me how, But I accepted it. I accepted it because they told me that. But now, I can explain to someone how, if I had to, but that's something that wasn't explained to us. So, when you don't know who you are, or you don't know where you're going, there's some saying, and I hate to misquote it, but it's something to the effect, history repeating itself, or whatever. And that's what has happened, and that's what's happening even today. Yeah.
And it's amazing because that generation, this generation that we're talking about, I want to go back to our childhood because we both are natives of Jackson. And while I left in '96, you have been here for most of your life. You traveled, you've experienced some things. And so therefore I think the mind is a gateway, but only to that which you experience.
Right.
So if you do not experience anything, you kind of have the same mindset. And I literally can remember visiting Jackson. I can remember coming back and visiting Jackson, and there at the same gas station from some 15, 20 years ago was the same guy doing the same thing.
Yeah,
and it just really dumbfounded me, And so before we go to our break, I wanted the people to understand that we both have been subject of what has happened in Jackson, bad, ugly, or good, but yet we both have children now. We both have families now. We both have businesses now. We work, and we turned out, I believe, okay.
Right.
And we're offering some resources to the city of Jackson, and we just want to make sure that people understand that help is here.
Right.
Help is not on the way. Help is here.
Exactly.
There are people that have gone and left and came back, and there are people that have been here. And now it is time for us to think about, if you are a concerned citizen, What are you doing?
Right.
How are you assisting the city? What can you do? If you don't know what to do, get with some people that are doing something in a positive light.
Right.
And so tonight on the Straight Report, we're going to dive a little deeper. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk about where did we see maybe 15, 20 years ago some things that could have been done, but yet today they're still not done. And we're going to explore why. We're going to dive into that. Okay, guys, you're tapped and tuned into the Straight Report, which is a weekly, worldwide, uncensored commentary on vital topics and epic truths that have been manipulated, diluted, and systematically restricted from mainstream media until now. It is our duty to share with you guys what the answers are. It is our duty to share with you guys some of the solutions that can actually free us from a prison that we're literally understanding started in our mind. We'll be back.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Welcome back. We're glad that you were able to join us tonight on the Straight Report. I have my brother from another mother, brother Amos Ellis. He
That's
goes
right.
by Famous Amos.
Still famous.
Still famous, baby. Still famous. And so tonight we are exploring from childhood to now how we feel about some things that Jackson has to now revise. They have to. We have we've reached a point of no return, and when you reach a point of no return, sometimes you just got to start building over. And I
Right.
think that's where we are.
Right.
Buildings dilapidated, streets that have not been fixed for years. There's no way in the world that I'm supposed to be driving down certain streets and I hit a pothole that I hit in 1990, and it's 2023. That's 33 plus years, people, of a pothole still being in the same place. So, Brother Amos, tell me some of the things that you feel like maybe we should have fought harder to fix, and some of the things that maybe we should have fought harder to preserve, some of the places, some of the iconic, historic places that kept young people out of trouble maybe, or that provided shelter, that provided protection, that provided a righteous upbringing. What are some of those things that you noticed along the way that 15, 20 years back, maybe 5 years ago, that you noticed that, wow, this still here? Or wow, we should have kept that? Please
Right.
talk to us.
Well, one thing for sure is some of the community centers that we had in the neighborhoods or whatever. I remember growing up in one neighborhood, we had a community center right there off of Edwards Avenue. I think it was called, man, I can't think of the name of it, but I remember going to that one, playing basketball and doing other recreational activities, the Upper Brown programs. Tougaloo College used to have a summer program, which I think they still do that. But the community centers particularly, there was one on Mega Evers that used to be a community that we don't have. Those buildings are still there, but what they're doing with those buildings today, I couldn't even tell you. But one real big one that I think we kind of dropped the ball on as citizens or whatever is making sure that we educate ourselves or whatever. We always emphasize how important it is to vote by simply saying, go vote. But we don't really go on to explain why it's actually important that we vote. And that's why a lot of people think their vote don't count. One other thing that I think we kind of dropped the ball on is, pre-segregation, we had this lake in the city. It was called Lake Kako.
Yes.
And we still have
Lake Kako.
Lake Kako Park. You know, my grandmother moved on Douglas Avenue. I think it was probably the third house on the street at the time. Of course, they moved on to build the houses. I have uncles that grew up hearing, I can recall hearing them talking about hearing the jet ski, ski boats, whatever. The white people used to go up there, and it was a recreational lake for them, right? But you know, after segregation, all of a sudden the lake is not fit for fishing and recreational activities or whatever. Now the lake is no longer there. You know, I don't know all the ins and outs about why the decision was made. I remember back when Harvey Johnson was mayor, they entertained reopening the lake. A study was done. And from my understanding, the study, it was determined that the lake was a thriving, healthy lake. And how do I know that? I know because I was one of those children that even though going up there to that lake, sneaking over the fence, going in between the gate, you know, you know, I was wrong for doing that. But guess what? It kept me out of a lot of other trouble that I could have been into. So, you know, the lake is no longer, the actual lake is no longer there, right? They drained it. Do you think that the community surrounding Lake Caroline would allow that Lake Caroline to be drained? See, we were so bamboozled that people in the community said, you know, if they open the lake, it's gonna devalue our property. Our property value gonna go down because people gonna start driving through the neighborhoods and this and that, right? That's some of the silliest stuff I've ever heard or whatever. Just think of the different other businesses that would have came as a result of the lake being open. Bait shops, or whatever, you know, people selling fishing license and things of that nature, other small little restaurants or whatever. But, and then it would have created a job because they could have had somebody, the city could have employed somebody full time to man the lake, you know, security and whatnot. And it would have paid for itself through membership fees and things of that nature. So,
well, see, you're a businessman and you're thinking business, and that's gonna segue into our next segment where we're gonna talk about leadership.
Right.
The powerful leaders that we have and the lack of leadership that we have. You know, you just gave a simple solution to something that some people sat and scratched their head for years and said, we don't know what to do with it.
Right.
But then again, there are some challenges behind the scenes that we may not have known about. Even as we were having a side conversation earlier, how now the infamous primetime coach Deion Sanders is now sharing that it wasn't necessarily all the things that people thought on why he left, but it was the forward thinking or the lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the lack thereof.
Right.
You know, so it's hard unless you've been there. It's hard, people, unless you've been at a facility, at an organization, to where you have all of these ideas that you know about. We're talking about Coach Primetime Deion Sanders, the one that played professional football and baseball in the same day, you know, and scored in both events. So when people saying, you can't do that, he did that.
Right.
And so if he's leading you and you sitting in meetings behind the scenes telling him, nah, we ain't gonna do that, we can't. He's looking like, it's just simply you giving me the okay.
Right.
I'm trying to respect your authority. So maybe that's what happened with Lake Hyco is what I'm getting at. Maybe we had some things that were in place that were meant to hold back certain neighborhoods.
Exactly.
Maybe we have some things in place that were meant to keep us from benefiting from those particular places. Now watch this. As I throw you this lob, I want you to slam dunk it.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Okay.
You watching?
Don't
let the ball hit you in the face now.
I'm ready. I'm waiting on it.
Why is it that we don't understand that people get together to hinder? Why don't we get together to break through the hindrance?
Well, let me tell you why.
You got to dunk it now.
Look,
you got to dunk it.
I got it. I got the alley. Watch this. One of the reasons why we don't break through is because we're paid not to break through. We're paid to not break through. They have people, let me give you a perfect example. And I say perfect. It may not be perfect, but here goes an example. Right now, we're dealing with something in the city, the Capital City Improvement District, right? Do you know that this concept of the Capital City Improvement District is not something new, but
But
it's been presented to us as something new. It's been presented to us as something good. You know, they have this thing they were calling the Twin Lakes Project. That they,
I think I heard of that.
Right, right there off of 55, that area that floods a lot, where the Pearl River runs under 55. Okay, that area. All right, so they want to do this Twin Lake concept. They had this Twin Lake concept. That concept, a lot of people probably think it's just a few years old or whatever. That concept is probably more than 20 years old. But because there were a group of people who sat down and planned something. Now, it didn't work out the way they initially planned it, but they didn't drop the ball. They kept on chipping away. We got to figure out a way to make this thing work.
Right.
And guess what? Through this House Bill 1020, they are going to make it work. Even though it's no longer a Twin Lake project, it's a One Lake project now. The Mississippi Corps, the Army Corps of Engineers out of Vicksburg, I forget how many millions of dollars they have basically committed to making it work, to go towards making it work. Or whatever. But my point is this. From our childhood, a ball was dropped that included making sure that the future, the generation at that time, the people that are adults now. Do you remember the term crack baby?
Yes.
When last time you heard somebody use crack baby? It's been a while, huh? You think they still babies?
Oh, they're grown.
Yeah, they grown men and women. They grown men and women, and we're dealing with some of the residual of that. And not to say that every person that's out there that's committing crime and doing ill in our communities were crack babies or whatever the case. That's not what I'm saying. But we dropped the ball when it came to ensuring that the stuff that was going on then, that we put an end to it then. So we're still dealing with it today. So it's our responsibility right now, and I think that's a big part of what this show does. It enlightens the people, at least bring to the attention, even if it don't solve the problem. I'm giving you something to think about. I'm giving you something to think.
Keeping it straight.
Right,
We're not saying watch this hand, while I sneak and slap you with this one.
Right.
We saying this is the issue, this is the problem. Now let's deal with the issue.
Right.
Let's stop playing with all these different distractions.
Right.
Let's stop being decoyed.
Right.
What happens when you're being decoyed? You're being set up to be what?
Exactly.
To be murdered.
Right. And watch this. You use that word distraction. I said we've been paid to allow some of this stuff. Our leaderships have been, hey, look, and it happens. And we can't use for an excuse that, well, when the white people did it, it was okay. No, whatever. That was a different day, a different time. It wasn't okay then, and it's not okay today.
But we still got results.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem now, and I definitely don't want to cut you off, the problem now is that they're getting paid and they're not doing anything.
Right. Exactly.
You're getting money, but you're not bringing any resolve.
Right.
You're not bringing any remedy.
Right.
So it's okay if you feel like you brought something to the table. You know, we work off what we call brokering. We work off what we call referrals, where if someone was to refer me and I get a $10,000 job, if I see you, it's cool. Hey, man, hey. Here go $100, man. Treat yourself to lunch.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't have had that residual if you wouldn't have made that phone call, referred that person. That's what people are calling the good old boy system. It's not really the good old boy system. It's you referring people that you know are going to return the favor. The problem is that we don't want to return the favor.
Right. And if we can be paid 10 cents to keep us from making 25 cents, then we fall for the 10 cent too often.
Hold that thought until we come back from this break. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tapped and tuned in with famous Amos, still famous Amos. Bennie Hitmaker Foster here on The Straight Report. We'll see you guys next segment.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are tapped and tuned in to The Straight Report, which is a weekly worldwide uncensored commentary on vital topics and epic truths that have been manipulated, I say diluted, and systematically restricted from mainstream media until right freaking now. You're tapped and tuned in with Bennie Foster. I'm your host, and I have a special co-host tonight, my brother, Mr. Amos Ellis, long-term citizen of Jackson, Mississippi. And the theme for tonight is concerned citizen. And I see we're not the only concerned citizens. We have some YouTube people that have tapped in. Cunning Worker said he couldn't wait to see the show. I'm glad that you are watching, my brother. Yapa Q Music, my beautiful people. Hey, our sister, how you doing? Yapa Q Music, our people do not carry plans forward. We have no one to pass it down to because we as a people, I gotta read from here now, lose interest in progression. Ooh, that's a pin that. They, however, it is proven do not. They pass down things and they keep it within their realm. We have to move forward even with their tactics. Now, again, Lisa and I, my lovely wife Lisa Foster and I, we have this saying, don't get frustrated with success, copy success. Don't get mad at the player, as they say, play the game. And I once heard, well, I didn't hear this, I had a mentor, I was very frustrated about something that was going on inside of the educational school system. And I literally exhaled in front of a leader, which really didn't have any more autonomy than me, but I was at their school. And they tried to blow that up like it was something because I was just like, you know what? I expressed my frustration with why you trying to do something that is ineffective. Why you guys doing this ineffective thing, okay? And so they tried to make it so big. And so the leader spoke to me, a mentor, and he said, sometimes you just gotta play the game. And I told him, I don't like playing the game. I don't like it. And I remember that. And so I now, prophetically and profoundly, have purposely, intentionally made sure that I'm gonna disrupt the game. That's what the Straight Report is about. I am here to disrupt the game. How do you disrupt the game? You begin to tell people the rules.
Right.
You also show people how to break the rules. Why? Because sometimes I will give you a set of misleading rules, and you're following that set of misleading rules,
Right.
while I am jumping through the loopholes of the misleading rules that I've given you. And that comes from leadership.
Right.
And so I'm gonna throw you another lob, brother.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's talk about, we call them bugs, the bad, the ugly, and the good. These are things that we should be able to stomp with our foot.
Right.
Let's talk about the bad, the ugly, and the good leadership in Jackson, Mississippi right now.
Okay.
It's in the air.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. You know, you've probably heard this one. I've expressed it several times. It's easier to fool a person than it is to convince them that they've been fooled.
One of my favorite
Okay.
sayings. You got to slow that down and say it so they see it again. Look at this camera. Look at your camera.
It is easier. It's easier to fool a person than it is to convince them that they have been fooled.
I
Now,
share
watch
that
this.
all the time.
Watch this.
I share that all the time.
The Straight
Let's go.
Report. The Straight Report. You said no chaser, right?
No chaser.
All right, when you first started riding a bike, when you learned how to ride a bike,
Correct.
for me now, I had training wheels. I had training wheels.
I needed training wheels.
They benefited me. You know what I'm saying?
They gave you balance.
Right. They helped me out. They kept me from falling. See, sometimes we take the chaser away, or we give them the straight report without the chaser when they might really need the chaser or whatever. And
They
not
still
that they
on milk.
need.
They still on milk.
Right. So sometimes, you know, because see what that chaser does, it basically relieves the bitter taste of something. That's the reason why we.
Spoonful of sugar helps
Yeah.
the medicine go
Boom,
down.
there you go.
Thank you, Mary Poppins.
So sometimes that chaser, it comes in handy, but it's only for, I mean, just think about people who drink wine. Some people like dry wine or whatever. Some of them like it sweet.
Fruity.
Yeah, don't give me that sweet stuff. I want some real wine. I don't drink wine, but I hear people talk about it or whatever, and I've tried it, and the bitter stuff, I'm like, I can't do it. But the sweet stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can drink that.
Sneak up on you.
Yeah, but
But it gets in your system.
right. And you
Easier.
end up with the same effect though, that intoxicating effect. So if we could, you know, figure out a way, whether it's with or without the chaser, just educating our people, because we have been miseducated. I mean, we have truly been. Just think about it. Go to school, go to school, go to school, get an education.
Get married, have kids, everything gonna be okay.
You know what I'm saying?
One of the biggest lies ever told. One of the biggest, hold on, let me look at my camera. One of the biggest lies ever told. Go to school, get an education, go to college, get married, have kids, and everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being in school. We had the career development center. Some kids went, they took up auto body. Some of them took up cosmetology, culinary.
Back in the good old days.
Right. Now, I don't know if they still offer that in the schools or whatever, but I remember being told those kids that went over there to CDC, the Career Development Center, they're going to be working for y'all. They wasting their time. Well, not so. Because I know quite a few of them that went to CDC and got certified or a license in their particular craft.
And make some good money.
Making good money.
How about this? They, somewhere along the line, we saw that we witnessed this too. As concerned citizens, we witnessed this. We witnessed to where home ec, shop, and all those things began to be alternative programs.
Right.
And that's where the kids who can't fit into the norm, who can't fit into the traditional school system, they go into the alternative school and they gonna be an auto mechanic. And they say it with a tone that's condescending and belittling and mortifying to make you think that that's beneath you.
They'll give you a dime to keep you from making 25 cents. So they have figured out, if we continue to—
I gotta pause you.
Oh, go ahead.
Who's this they? We always talking about they. I'm gonna help y'all out there in TV land. Who's that they to you?
The they is anybody that's a part of the agenda. Black, white, yellow, green, I don't care what they are. But, however, don't be fooled.
Thank you for exposing that. Because some people think the they is one group of people. It's not.
Right. Because sometimes they, some of those entities that's a part of that makeup are being used and don't even know that they're being used.
Come on, they're being pawns.
Even some of our politicians.
Yes.
Or whatever. I had somebody come to me one time because I expressed political interest. Oh yeah, you'll be good for this. Don't worry about the money. We're gonna make sure you got everything you need, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of getting excited. I'm listening because, wow, I can actually be this person, right? And then by the time I got home, I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. That ain't me. I can't let somebody do that for me, because I realized based on some of the other stuff that they were saying, that they was looking for a puppet on the string, and I was not going to be a puppet on the string. So, but some people are okay with being a puppet on the string.
There's a price to be paid on the other side of them paying for you to go through.
Right, exactly.
They're going to expect something out of you.
Exactly.
They're going to expect you to jump when they say jump.
Right.
How high and all that. Okay.
Right. And I don't think we have, the people that we call leaders today. Oftentimes we don't really know what a leader is. People often accept leaders simply as one who has the ability to lead and influence others. Well, I have the ability to fly an airplane, but you wouldn't want me to be your pilot, because I don't know how to fly an airplane. I haven't been to school to fly an airplane. Like my life lessons hadn't, equipped me to how to fly an airplane.
I'm not saying that you can't, but you have not obtained that knowledge as of yet.
Right, I can't even apply skills yet. Now, when it comes to leadership, there are things that we experience in life that equips and prepares us for certain situations or whatever. But a lot of time we have people that's in the lead, but they're not the leader. They may be in the lead position per se. They may have the title per se, but they're not necessarily the leader.
That's good. That's good. Now, and then they need to have the autonomy to know that delegated authority is a vital.
Don't know how to use it.
It's one of the most vital tools when it comes to being a leader. Being able to delegate authority to your team. And so if you don't have a great team, you're not really a great leader, because leader inspires their team. A good leader inspires their team to be great and doesn't feel like they have to micromanage them, don't feel like they have to put their thumb on them, don't feel like they have to redirect them, belittle them, or make them feel small because maybe the light shines on them. You should be proud of your team as a leader. So before this segment is up, man, time went by quick on this one. Before this segment is up, I really want you to give me 2 things that you think the next leader you need to have for Jackson. The next mayor, the next city councilman, the next city councilwoman. What are 2 things, and you only got about 30 seconds, what are 2 things that you think those next leaders have to have in order for Jackson to move forward?
Right. Okay. It may be hard to just give you 2, but
Give me 3.
Okay. They need to have purpose. They need to believe in the purpose that they have, not just allow it to be a soundbite. Because sometimes people run, and not just purpose, a good purpose that's going to benefit the entire city.
The king dreams benefits the people.
There you
the
go.
king
There
dreams
you go.
for the
There you
kingdom.
go.
So they
There you
can't
go.
just dream for self-satisfaction.
There you go.
They have to dream for the benefit
Exactly.
of Jackson and the citizens of Jackson.
Right.
Number 2.
They got to be somebody that's ready to take full responsibility. They can't say, well, that happened in the last administration, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
You got to take it all on.
Right. If you running for this seat, you got to be willing and
All
ready
this
to
comes
take
with it.
Exactly.
Full responsibility.
You knew it was there before you decided to run for the office. So boom.
Purpose and full responsibility.
Right. And some humility.
And some humility.
You gotta have some humility. You
Wow.
gotta be able to trust and believe in your
Wow.
own opinion, but also value the opinions of those around you.
Wow.
Because just like you are the mayor, the city councilman, or whatever, you have people around you that live in this same city.
Yes.
Don't you think they want the city to be better too?
Yes.
So, you gotta, listen to the people. Listen to the people.
So purpose.
Purpose.
I got that, right? And then you said full responsibility. I love it.
Take full
Because
responsibility.
see, responsibility and accountability are 2 different things. You're not you weren't accountable for that, but once you take on full responsibility,
it's yours.
now you're
That's
accountable.
your baby. That's
Now
your
you're
baby.
accountable,
That's
responsible
your
and
baby.
accountable. I love it, right? And last but not least,
Well, I said humility.
humility. Watch this. Humility is power under control. It doesn't mean meekness, doesn't mean weakness.
Right.
And so our next leader is going to have
Right.
humility.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to this break, I want you to understand that you're tapped and tuned in. You're locked into a segment of the Straight Report. This is our first ever in-station guest, and I think we got more for you when we come back and talk about some of the good things in Jackson.
I am Chef Shishi, the owner of Just in Time, the featured chef of the JMMF Culinary Kitchen, where we prepare farm-to-fork centered, healthier, all-natural foods in the urban community.
Call in now at 601-397-6752. Call in now at 601-397-6752.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We got about 11 minutes to share with you some of the great things that are going on in Jackson, that are going on here in Jackson. We're going to read some comments first from YouTube, those that are watching on YouTube. We literally have some great comments here. We said that Melissa Foster says titles don't make you a leader.
That's right.
Titles are purchased. Leaders need to have an intention to benefit the people of Jackson, accountability, humility, listen to the people. Still famous for mayor of Jackson, Mississippi.
What?
I'll vote for you.
Salute.
You got my vote. Okay,
man.
so because what I'm hearing, first of all, and let's go back a little bit. When we talk about the things that we notice have been taken away from us, some just abruptly and some subtly, sneaking.
Right.
S-U-P, like the serpent in the garden,
Yeah.
S-U-P-T-L-Y. We noticed that those things did contribute to the demise and the disparities that we're now facing so many years later. But you gave a solution to something that could have been salvaged, Lake Hyco. So
Right.
there's leadership.
That's
But
money making.
there's leadership, though. There's leadership there. That's leadership. When you take something, I just shared this on a LinkedIn. They asked me to give a comment. They be pulling me in sometime on these comments. And they said, what are some of the things that you can share with people about being a solution? And I told them, wherever there's a need, just be the solution. be affordable, be economical, of course, be
Right.
affordable, but be, look, the answer. Be the answer to their problem. And that's a business. That's a business for anyone. Now, whether it's simple things like hauling off people's trash.
Right.
Some apartment complexes pay people per bag, per trash can that they empty, hear me, and take it to the dumpster in the same complex. I know young men that have went around through the neighborhood and say, I take your trash out for $1. You know, when I was growing up, I saw people. So the economy is what you make it. You know?
Right.
But so as we talked about the leadership, as we talked about some things that have been long-staying issues and challenges, let's now talk about some staples that are still good. What are some of the things? Well, first of all, this is a shameless plug. The Charity Activity and Event Center.
Oh, it's not shameless.
The Charity Activity and Event Center, which is located in South Jackson. It is a gym in South Jackson. It is Diamonds in South Jackson over at 195 Raymond Road, where I was allowed to utilize this facility as an incubator until I was able to find my own space for open house vision. This is the brother that shared that facility with me, shares that facility with me even now. We have a function going on April 22nd. If you're in the city of Jackson, it's a prayer brunch, and we're gonna use that beautiful facility. If you don't know about the Charity Activity Event Center, look at it on Facebook, Google it, reach out to us, we'll share that information with you. So that's one of the great things that are going on in Jackson. Tag, you it. What's something else that's good that's going on in Jackson?
Well, right now, as a matter of fact, when I leave here, I'll be going to another show. We have a group.
WNPR 90.1.
Right,
You're a
right.
co-host on that show. Talk
Right.
about To The Point a little
To the
bit.
point. Well, actually, tonight we have a guest that'll be on the show. They're going to be promoting a summer program that's going to be hosted at Tougaloo.
Awesome.
Tougaloo. So that's one great thing, and I can't wait to. I don't want to say too much about that particular thing because it's, I want to leave that up to them to put out to the people. But that's, the people can look forward to stuff like that or whatever. But not only that, I'm gonna say this because I know our time is going to go by real quick with 7 minutes. I heard it said, we all heard it said by the late great, and I will say great, and I don't feel shame about saying it, Michael Jackson. I don't know if he wrote the song. I know he sang the song. But he said something to the effect that that he was starting with the man in the mirror. And he was going to ask him to change his ways. He said no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change.
Make a
Right, exactly.
change.
So that's where we can start. I just want to put that out there because a lot of time people want to do something to make a difference, but they feel like they don't know where to start. Start by looking in the mirror.
Okay.
And, correcting anything that you know that you need to correct.
So watch this. I'm going to go in. This is a straight report, no chaser. Even though you said some people need a chaser, they're not getting a chaser tonight.
Okay.
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
Because one of the things that we're doing, and you and I talk about this because we have men around the nation that are on this call on Sundays, the Salute Men's Mentorship Call. But we also have now a men's conference, June 17th, that will be at the Bennie G. Thompson Center. And it's called Mississippi Men Under Construction. Why did we choose that, Mississippi? Because we have to rebuild.
Right.
We have to rebuild our partnerships, our relationships. We have to rebuild our legacy.
Right.
Our young men are dying to get out of here because they don't see positive role models. So I'm not just going to speak to the men because we do it all the time. I'm going to ask you a very tactical question. It's like I'm giving you a grenade without the pen right now.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. What is something that you would say to the woman of Jackson to get them in a place, in a position to where they could be a vital resource to the revisions that need to happen in this city? What is something that you can look in this camera and say to the woman that can motivate them or inspire them to start doing some things in the city?
I'll say this, and I hope that it does, and it falls along the line of leadership. Self-acceptance. You have to accept who you are. You have to accept who you are, accept what your role is to the men that we're speaking of. The men, not just who we are, but who we even aspire to become or whatever. In the book, and when I say the book, excuse me, I'm referencing the Bible. God created us. He said it's not good for man to be alone. And he did what? He made him a help meet. Obviously, the man needed some help.
Yes.
So women, Be that help. Be that help. That's what I would say to the woman. Excuse me.
Now, what would you say to the men?
To the men?
Men, you're not getting off easy. What would you say to the men?
Look, it's a motto that the Army used, and I served in both the Marine Corps and the Army. And that motto at one time was, be all you can be. We're not even trying to be half of what we can be, or whatever, but be all you can be. Yeah, so if we would aspire to do that, each day, again, looking in the mirror, wanting to having a desire to make the world a better place, it starts with sweeping around our own front door, making sure that we taking care of ourselves or whatever, and doing it in a way that exemplifies the love, not just that you have for yourself, but the love that you have for your people. Because I'm just that naive to believe that every man in the city of Jackson loves somebody in the city of Jackson. So if you make decisions based off what you feel will benefit the people you love, then I think we'll start to see some difference, positive difference in the city.
That's right. And so now, before we get out of here, man, I do want to mention that men's conference. The title of that men's conference is Mississippi Men Under Construction, Building Bridges of Respect, Relationships, and Legacy. We have to show, it's a construction theme. We talking to some pretty big name people that we think can come and pour back into this city. We actually have some locals that will be speaking. We have some of the people that be on our Zoom call that will be coming down from Atlanta and Alabama and Memphis and other places, all to pour into the men. How do we reach those men who don't realize that there is a war going on? There's a war for our children. It's a war for their attention. This social media has so many negative things on it. I say this all the time, when will we understand that 12 men can walk in the worst neighborhood right now? 8 men can just walk in that neighborhood and just stand around, and probably one of the most thuggish young men in the neighborhood gonna come on and say, what y'all doing? So you don't even have to go out and try to beat them over the head. You can just show up because they not used to men traveling together. So what is something that you think, again, men can do in their community right now for the youth?
Well, I know you've probably heard the principal concept, each one teach one, each one reach one. One, again, we got to start with self. And I don't care how much effort we put into any concept or ideology that somebody have that we read about. If we do not have Christ in our life, it ain't, it's like a short dead end.
God is the key factor.
Gotta have that.
He's not a key, he's the key.
That's
factor.
it. But with that, okay, you got that element in place. Now you're in motion, right? Just reach one. Just try to reach one or whatever. And I think you do that by presenting yourself, by us presenting ourselves as a light to the world. So that men and women can be drawn unto him, because a lot of people, for them, they've given up. They feel like there's no hope. Well, don't nobody else care, so why should I care? Well, there are people that care. If there weren't people that care, we wouldn't be here right now.
You have to also understand that is symbolic of darkness. When we say ignorance and when we say darkness, that means ignorance. And so there's an ignorance there, and there's a lack of knowing. And so now more teaching, more showing through illustration. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get out of here, I'm gonna have a petition that I share with you guys. I'm gonna petition you tonight. I know that you are a concerned citizen because you watched. Now we have to make that plural. We have to become concerned citizens. I can remember when I was sharing the vision of Open House Vision, and though we have now offices over off the frontage road, north side of Jackson, over off I-55 North, we do have space now. We're still looking for that house. And I can remember a young lady saying to me, "You're gonna do sewing now? You're gonna do cooking now? You're gonna be doing like outings? You're gonna do a garden? That's a whole lot for one person." I said, "It's not for me to do. It's for the citizens of Jackson." Ladies and gentlemen, is for the citizens of Jackson to come together now. Enough is enough. We've been bickering, we've been fighting, we've been arguing over frivolous things, and now it's time that we become concerned citizens. Thank you, Brother Amos. I hope you can come back soon. At the end of this show tonight, I say, go in peace. Let's work together today.
Be the